you had mainstream media and you wrote a whole book on the New York Times, which was considered in your book, you say that was never the case, should have never been considered trustworthy. But at least the media in general
Yeah.
had more trust. And the incentives back then were less misaligned than they are now with the whole subscription model where they have to feed into confirmation bias. So you've got mainstream media that was trusted, no longer being trusted. You've got all these different influences on social media, all social media platforms, but they're their own echo chamber. And then the algorithm on social media platforms, I've had RFK on the show a few times. And one thing he talks about is how social media platforms algorithm reinforces that confirmation bias, reinforces those echo chambers. It feeds you information, it feeds you videos or images that you want to consume. So you keep using the platform and then you get into that loop. So you've got the algorithms on social media platforms. You've got the censorship on social media platforms. So X is really the last bastion, in my opinion, of where you could find, I'd say no censorship as far as the law of any country allow. And also the algorithm is a lot more open, a lot more transparent. But even within X, you've seen a lot of efforts to try to have more influence from, mainly we're seeing from the left, more influence on the platform. We've seen that with community nodes. Not sure if you saw the story a couple of days ago. There were groups, Telegram groups of fact checkers on community nodes colluding together to try to influence. I think they squashed a lie by Biden. I'm not sure if you've looked into that. We've seen the leak of Hadmat Tayibi and Paul Tucker on the show. I think it was last week. They did the leaks from the CCDH, Center for Countering Digital Hate, and on their agenda they had one of the notes on there that leaked in the we call it the Kill Twitter files, and that was part one. They got another part coming in. Kill Musk's Twitter. That was in their agenda, and they were working with the Kamala campaign. We've seen the Media Matters. We've seen the ADL crackdown on Twitter through pressuring advertisers. That's all been exposed over the last few months. So you've essentially don't have many platforms of truth left. I can't think of many sources. There's a few news outlets that still try to stick to unbiased truth. But then for the average person, if Google's getting influencing, that example you've given with Wikipedia, if social media platforms are getting influenced, it's difficult to tell which mainstream media outlet is trustworthy and are they reliable on which topic are they reliable on? Do they have Pfizer as an advertiser so they can't be unbiased when it comes to healthcare, but they're unbiased when it comes to geopolitics in the Middle East? And then we're seeing all these efforts to try to crack down on X. What do you make of all this?
I mean, we are at this point where everyone, especially the establishment, is starting to understand that whoever controls information essentially controls reality, because it's all been mediated for us by perception, and whatever we perceive is understood to be the consensus and the objective reality, even though it's not necessarily the case. But I do think what we're seeing on the other side of this is, as you point out, X as a kind of reaction where Musk says we have to actually open things up and not close things down, even if that means accepting voices we don't always want to hear or definitely don't agree with. But I also think we see more independent media. I mean, A, what you're doing, or like B, what I'm an editor at Pirate Wires, which is a publication that will take on any topic and explore any idea, and nothing's going to be censored. So I'm able to do the kind of Wikipedia reporting that I'm doing right now at Pirate Wires because we're independent. I would never be able to do this at CNN or The Atlantic or somewhere like that, because it would violate the narrative in a way that's just like, it just wouldn't be permitted. So what you're talking about with Taibbi, with Paul Thacker is a friend of mine, with countless other people, Schellenberger, who are putting these stories out. And not only that, the more important thing is that they're building real audiences. They're actually getting to people. People are paying attention to this. I'm able to talk about this story about Wikipedia because of this new ecosystem of ideas and information. And I think this is what really counts. So we can look at it from the standpoint of like, yes, there's an enormous effort to clamp down, like NewsGuard. You've probably heard about them, where they're going around trying to get not only advertisers to boycott sites, but they're getting vendors like the banking infrastructure, that kind of thing, just to like deplatform news organizations they don't like. And that's dark, but it's real. But on the other hand, what we're seeing is a huge opening of the Overton window, where people can finally say things that they couldn't say, especially during the pandemic, where it was a total information lockdown.
Yeah, I agree. I think we are seeing that shift. By the way, good news on your Wikipedia article. I was looking at it before this interview, and not sure if you saw. There's on the top now, it says an editor has nominated this article for deletion. You are welcome to participate in the deletion discussion.